going to go ahead and get a few things set up, and then we'll pick up where we left off last time with day 2 of the Battle of Gettysburg. Taking me a few minutes to get everything set up. I had to reboot my laptop. I used my laptop for following the chat, and it froze up on me at about 5 minutes before we went live, so it's just now finishing up rebooting. So things went a lot better for me this time around. I had to go back and replay both 2nd Winchester and the first day at Gettysburg in order to get myself caught up to where I had a little hiccup there at the end of the live stream last week because I overlooked keeping troops on Cemetery Hill. I actually had a much more organized defense, and the casualties were far more in my favor at both 2nd Winchester and Gettysburg as well. So I'm pretty happy with where things stand. You can see right now going into this part of the second day, I'm looking at 98,000 men up against 23,500. So this is simulcasting on both Twitch and YouTube at the same time, and I should be able to see the difference when you're in. So I won't be able to type in the chat. If you're new to my live streams, I will be able to see all those things and I can respond by voice. But just the way I have things set up, I won't be typing in the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. Ahoy, Gallant, what's up? Hope the weather is as beautiful for you as it is here in Ohio today. We've got, it's actually pretty warm and sunny. It's supposed to be 90 degrees the next couple of days, Fahrenheit. I know not everyone who's watching uses Fahrenheit. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Diving into the second day at Gettysburg on the Union side. Glad to hear that. Glad you're having good weather too. All right, so we start off defending over on Culp's Hill. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is the south. Okay, so we're dealing with Little Round Top. Now, it's been a long time since I've gone to the second day. Joker, it'll be Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Tuesday and Friday. Just had to skip Friday because of some family things going on. But yeah, I mean, typically when I play through the campaign, I don't have many troops on this part of the battlefield, but at least on the Confederate side, because I usually don't go this far. But boy, on the Union side, it's been a long time since I've fought this. I'm assuming the thing to do is to fall back here instead of having this sickles position that I have. I'm thinking it's just going to be a mess to try and hold that there. So we're going to do a orderly withdrawal up to the heights. I'm thinking we're going to want to send some troops over here, though. There's Devil's Den right here, I'm assuming. What big city is near me? Cleveland. Or New York. New York City works. Same time. I'm in eastern U.S., so New York, Washington, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. All the East Coast cities in the U.S. are the same time as me. But New York probably is the easiest way to check. I'm actually about 6 hours west of New York, but still the same time zone. Thinking I don't need Ward all the way up there. It's kind of cool that I have a General Ward, because there was a General Ward who was a brigade commander on July 2nd for the Union side. Yes, Cleveland Brown, yeah. Not to be confused with the Cleveland Browns, who are a terrible football team. Although I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Then again, we say that every year, so. All right, what's happening here? Oh, man, he's already got skirmishers in Devil's Den. Was not expecting that. I'm actually going to send Averill down here. I'm going to get Cutshaw over there as quickly as I can. Oh man, here comes Anderson. Yeah, this is Longstreet's flank attack. But he just doesn't have that many men. So Whiting's going to hold for me out here while I rush some more troops into position. This may not be the best place to go for me. I might be better off just leaving this. What difficulty? Thomas, this is on Brigadier General now. Normally I would find that very, very easy with all the hours I've got into this game, but it was suggested to me that I was probably best to go Brigadier General on a live stream, just because I'm spending so much time watching the chat and talking to all of you guys that I'm not giving nearly enough attention to the game. So Brigadier General is kind of a happy medium for me while I'm live streaming. World Cup, Joker, are you talking about, did you mean 2018 World Cup? Of course, the United States men did not make the World Cup this year, which was a huge disappointment, at least for me and for others who follow the sport. Because I'm not only, and of course you guys know we call it soccer here rather than football, but I've been coaching soccer for about 6 years now. My son's very good. He plays some forward and a lot of goalie. If I had to put my money on someone, I'd probably go with Germany for the World Cup. But I know anything can happen. Oh, what did I think about the one in 2014? Well, we followed it. We definitely enjoy watching it. Of course, the women for the United States in the last Women's World Cup, I mean, that was a big excitement for all of us who follow soccer, especially since our men's team's not nearly as good as our women's team is. So for the most part, he's really not hitting me up here yet, and he doesn't have a lot of troops. He's only got 11,000 on the field right now. Sokobi, I absolutely 100% agree with you. I would love to see a Revolutionary War, or American War for Independence, as it's called, for this game. I know there was talk of that possibility down the road for the developers of this game, but I believe they're leaning toward a Napoleonic War game, which would also, I think, lend itself well to this. You want to stick, I think, no later than American Civil War as far as major conflicts with this game engine. I don't think this would work real well, for example, with World War I, just because you have the combined arms aspect of this. All right, we're going to have to get some help down here. But yeah, I'd love, absolutely love a American War for Independence on this. I know right now I think they have a naval warfare game is the current title that Game Labs has out. Yeah, Thomas, it's one of those ones. I mean, I've got like 1,600 hours into this game now, but there's definitely a lot of replayability. I just finished, or nearly finished, my Legendary campaign. I'm in the process of replaying the Battle for Washington as the Confederates, and those videos will be going up here live this week. Very, very challenging. I think Legendary mode on the Union side would be significantly easier, and at some point, probably in the next month or so, I'll probably get to a Legendary campaign once this live stream campaign's over. Alright, he's coming up at Little Round Top now. I've mentioned this before on some of my videos, but if you've never been to Gettysburg, it's definitely worth a visit. And Little Round Top is one of those places that when you go there and you stand there and you see it live, and you see it for yourself, you understand better, I think, than reading any history book, the significance of that position, because you can see how it overlooks the entire battlefield. You can see the importance of it and why it was so necessary for the Union to hold that position, and why it was so important for the Confederates to try to take it. And one of the other things that I learned in visiting there that I hadn't realized before is that I guess when I always pictured the battle on Little Round Top, I pictured the men at the top of the hill firing down on the Union troops, but they were not at the top of the hill. They were about a third to almost a halfway down the front slope. The front slope's all open, it's rocky, but it's clear of trees, and it's got a clear view all the way down into Devil's Den. The woods are all behind, up on top of the hill, and over here where the 20th Maine was, over on this side in the woods. And there was a strategic reason why they didn't stand at the top of the hill, and it had to do with how the troops attacking up the hill could see you against the backdrop of the sky and stuff. I don't remember the exact details, but there was a reason why they didn't go all the way to the top to fight. Franco-Prussian War, absolutely. Actually, Thomas, that was, as I was saying about not going any later than the American Civil War, it occurred to me that I think the Franco-Prussian War was just maybe, 5 years later. So it certainly could work with this game engine, and actually the technology wouldn't be all that different. Alright, so even Cutshaw is doing pretty well here. We've got Robertson, Benning, Kershaw, Anderson, Law. Law was actually the brigade of Alabamians who attacked over here against the 20th Maine on the extreme left wing of the Union Army, historically anyway. Hey Abraham, how's it going? Good to see you. Yeah, I could very well see, Joker, that it could come down to Germany and Brazil. I don't know which groups they're all in, who's got the tough group, who has an easier one. So I don't know how that'll all shake out as far as the matchups go. This is going to be fairly easy for me here on day 2. The thing with playing on the Union side of Gettysburg is you have to play through the whole battle regardless. On the Confederate side, you can win on day 1. I've only lost, 600 men? He's lost about 2,600. Yeah, Abraham, that's a very good point about professionalism and morale, because that was such a huge part of the war. And the tactics, of course, would be interesting because many of the battles didn't involve traditional tactics, at least on the American side, because the Americans would have had no chance, especially early in the war, fighting a kind of toe-to-toe, head-to-head in open battlefields against a professional army like the Brits and the Hessians had. So I'm curious to know how they would figure all that out. Yeah, Joker, that's what we we're just talking about. They'd have to completely revamp their engine to make this a World War I game, because you're dealing with air power at that point. You're dealing with, I mean, artillery, I guess, wouldn't be that hard. Then you're dealing with tanks. Late in the war, you've got gas, which honestly, the gas attacks really had very little impact in the war after they were first used, because both sides were pretty well ready for it. But I'd love to see a game like this for World War I. I have seen there is a really nice mod for one of the Total War games. It might be for Napoleon Total War, a World War I mod that looks really, really good that I'll probably try out at some point. And I've seen some great battles. I think Pixelated Apollo has some video of him playing on that mod. Yeah, World War I was kind of a, there was very little action because of all the trenches. It was all kind of moving a couple hundred yards here and there. Siege of Petersburg and some of the other battles in 1864 and beyond were kind of a preview for that in the Civil War, as they started to finally allow the tactics to start to catch up to the technology. All right, this one's going to get pretty quiet here now, I think. He's hanging out right down here in Devil's Den. Silly skirmishers. All right, let's speed this up a little bit. So we won't get all the way to Chickamauga today. That'll probably be for our next live stream next Sunday. Here comes Barksdale. Interesting, because Barksdale historically was over here somewhere. He was killed in this battle. Mortally wounded, I should say. I think he survived at least until later that day or the next day. So Anderson's going to occupy these fortifications at least temporarily. Hey, Jacob, how's it going? Oh, he's going to make one more advance on me here, it looks like. Yeah, Joker, the spring offensive. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Obviously, there was some movement there late in the war. I believe that was the one under Ludendorff, wasn't it? Yeah, Thomas, I'm with you. I would love to have seen the Vicksburg and Atlanta campaigns specifically because, and I mentioned this before, most of my ancestors who fought in the Civil War were from Kentucky, and so a lot of them mainly fought in Kentucky. I only have a couple of ancestors who were with any of the major armies. I had a third great-grandfather who was in the 56th Pennsylvania, who was at Gettysburg. They fired the first shots for the Union infantry during the war. I had a fourth great-grandfather who was actually the future father-in-law of that guy in the 56th Pennsylvania, who was a sergeant with the 4th Pennsylvania Cavalry. They were on Cemetery Ridge on July 2nd. And then I had an ancestor who was with the 20th Ohio. And let's pause for just a second here, because this is where I'm going to have to back up and cover my flank over here. the ancestor who was with the 20th Ohio was at places like Fort Donelson, Shiloh, the Vicksburg campaign, Atlanta. So it would be nice to have been able to do more of those battles since I know I have an ancestor who fought in them. I'm going to pull a lot of my guns back here. Start getting ready for that attack from over here. Oh, Jacob, yes. As soon as I'm done, remind me when we get to the end of this live stream, I will set that game up. In fact, I'll set up 2. And then that way we can do one where I'm the Union and one where I'm the Confederate and vice versa. And I'll just make the password history guide 25, all one word, lowercase. But remind me when we get to the end of this live stream and I'll do that. Abraham, for the most part, no, not really. Not in any significant amounts that made any difference. Foreign volunteers. There were obviously individuals, kind of like what happened in the early parts of World War I or World War II, where you had Americans who came over and fought in the French Army or in the French Air Corps, things like that. I'm going to have to hold Bristow out here for the time being. No worries, Jacob. Just got a lot going on, and it's not that I don't have time to do it. It's just sometimes my mind's on 1,000 other things, and I don't always remember well. Yeah, Thomas, you have to find time and make an opportunity to come out and see some of the battlefields in the east. I haven't seen many in the west. I want to go to Shiloh. I've been to Stones River, and I think that's about it. I'd like to go to Shiloh for sure. Vicksburg. I've been to Kennesaw Mountain outside of Atlanta. Joker, yeah. We had our first year and a half of the multiplayer game. You're certainly welcome to jump in as a country that hasn't been taken yet. If you want to jump in on the next one. We're already kind of into the thick of things. Herr Rommel is playing as Germany, and he's already, I think it was in late 37, early 1938, he invaded Poland. So he's already at war with the UK, but not with France. France is not part of the Allies. They're actually leaning towards socialism, communism actually. And I, as the USSR, am trying to make that happen. We will play again next Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. New York time, Eastern time. And you're welcome to join in on that. The first video from the first playthrough, which was on Saturday, will go live after we play the next one on Saturday. I don't want to be giving my enemies any help on the game, so it'll be lagging 1 week behind as far as putting the videos live. Alright, we're gonna get down here and get some supplies to cut Shaw. I still haven't seen an attack over here. Joker, we have 7 right now playing in the multiplayer game for Hearts of Iron 4. We've got Germany, Finland, Brazil, the United States, Japan, China, and myself as the USSR. I think that's everybody. Germany, Finland, Brazil, US, China, Japan, and myself. Yeah, that's everybody. We'll speed up a little bit here. Can I go Tsarist? I'm not entirely sure that you can. In the vanilla game, it just gives you various forms of communism, I think, to choose from. And I decided to keep it that way, though I'm going to try to stay at peace with everybody as long as I can, especially since Finland has joined the Axis in our game. But Thomas, back to the battlefields. Antietam and Gettysburg for sure. If you ever come out east, for different reasons. Gettysburg, of course, is by far there's the most to see and experience, and it's still by far my favorite to visit. Antietam I really like because there's still a lot to see and do, but it's not commercial like Gettysburg is. There aren't nearly as many people. You can go out to spots on the battlefield and there'll be nobody there. I mean, I was walking the sunken lane, and there was nobody else there. And then I went over to the cornfield and there was no one else there. And it was a beautiful day when I was there, so it was really cool. The village of Sharpsburg is still relatively small, so it was really neat to experience that. Ultimate General Mexican-American War, yeah, that's always a possibility too. I mean, there's a lot of ways that could go with it. What I really, really wish, and I don't know how easy this is to do, I'm not a developer, I wish there was the ability to bring mods into this game. The flexibility and what that would allow, I think, would give so much. That and multiplayer, of course, would bring so much depth to this game. It would just be incredible. Oh boy, I got got some skirmishers for reinforcements and General McClellan, so not much to be excited about there. Oh, Joker, that's cool. I didn't know. It doesn't surprise me there's such a mod, but so this would be the equivalent, I guess, to the 6th Corps arriving as reinforcements. Historically. And obviously, I'm in no danger whatsoever. I didn't even need the reinforcements. But I could pretty well crush him here and really cripple his ability to fight moving forward, hopefully. Yeah, Thomas, I want to get back to some of the Virginia battlefields. I was at Petersburg about 2 years ago, but I haven't been probably since I was 12 or 13 years old to places like Bull Run, Chancellorsville, Fredericksburg. I really want to get back to those places. Oh man, I could just have a field day doing history guy videos in those spots. Joker, that's a great thing to wish for your birthday. Yeah, goodness, Jacob, and could you just imagine if this had multiplayer? I mean, I don't know how often I'd ever play anything else. I mean, they were just, and I know they can do it because even if we just did it with historical battles, would be cool. Even if it wasn't a campaign, because they had multiplayer on Ultimate General Gettysburg, which is obviously a different game. This game's got a lot. It's actually hard for me to play Ultimate General Gettysburg after playing this, but similar concept. So I'm very nearly done with a video that I've been talking to you guys that I'm in the works with. One of the things that Avenir Dutch, who's one of the sponsors of this channel, on Patreon, and when you get to the $20 a month sponsorship level on Patreon, one of the things that goes with that is you can request for me every month to do a custom video where I just kind of talk about a historical topic of your choice, and he requested the American Revolutionary War. So I wanted to do something that maybe hadn't been done before, at least that I hadn't seen, put a different spin on it. So I'm doing a video where I just kind of talk about the personal connections, the family connections that exist between leaders of the American Revolution and leaders of the American Civil War. And I'm very nearly done with that. There's been a lot of editing involved because I'm using pictures and had to do a lot of research to get the information together. But it's really, really cool. Just some of what I've found, and I'll give you a little taste of that. It's going to be in the video, but this is just something I found in my research. And that is, for example, the 16th United States Infantry, which was a regular Army unit in the American Civil War on the Union side, actually had descendants of two of America's founding fathers in the same unit. Captain Francis Bash was the great grandson of Benjamin Franklin, and he was a captain in the 16th United States Infantry, and there was actually, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I believe it was, I'm just looking at my notes here, I believe it was a grandson of Thomas Jefferson was also in that same unit. I'm just looking to find my notes now. Oh well, it'll be in the video. But yeah, there were two different founding fathers who had descendants in that same unit. I want to say the other one was a major, and he was actually killed during the war. One of Benjamin Franklin's other descendants who was in the Civil War was a great-grandson, Hartman Bash, who was the father of that Captain Bash I referred to, and he was the chief of topographical engineers for the Union Army, and he was actually married to General George Meade's sister. So a lot of those kinds of connections that were really cool that I found. I'm going to move up here and just see if I can wipe out some of these units. He's sending all these skirmishers up here at Little Round Top. We've still got an hour and 12 to go. Boy, Barksdale's down to just 645 men. Joker. Yes, I did. The one of you, I think it had something to do with Solo, didn't it? The movie, the Solo movie? I did see that. Very cool. Oh, look at you, Wilcox, coming up here and try to occupy these fortifications. So we're getting very near to nightfall here. We're going to be getting into July 3rd. We're going to wipe Benning out too, I think. Hey, how's it going? Howdy. Welcome back. Alright, so we're nearly done here. Druntood Officer, I just want to let you know we're nearly done. I'm playing the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg. We're nearly done with that now. It's been pretty one-sided just because of the massive advantage I have in numbers and in my strong defensive position. I'm trying to wipe out a couple of these units. And then I think we'll probably shift over to the right side to Culp's Hill. Joker, you're talking about Solo as an abomination of a movie? I haven't heard yet how it is. I don't know if anybody who's here have actually seen it. We were talking now that we've got a couple of German folks in here about the upcoming World Cup, and I was expressing my belief that I think Germany's got a pretty good shot to win that. We'll see what happens. All right, Culp's Hill, we shift over. My wife's family related to the Culps. They were a German family, and it was Kolb, K-O-L-B. And somewhere along the line, the branch that stayed in Gettysburg changed it. It became anglicized to Culp. And my wife's family came west into Ohio, and they remained Kolb. So you can still see I've got a massive advantage in numbers. All right. So now we're going to be defending Culp's Hill, and Cemetery Hill. I'm going to back some of these units up a little bit. He may be coming at me from over here too, so I've got to be careful. Now, it was in this area of the battlefield that, and I'm going to do a video on this at some point too, just talking about just specifically Gettysburg and all of the relatives of past and future Americans of historic note. So, for example, and this is one I mentioned in my video that's going to be coming out this week. I think it was, Colonel Paul Revere, who was a grandson of the famous Paul Revere, who made the midnight ride to warn that the British were coming. So Paul Revere's grandson, Paul Revere, was the commanding officer of the 20th Massachusetts Infantry, was killed here at Gettysburg. And there are a lot of stories like that. A private who was a color bearer in one of the Virginia regiments that participated in Pickett's charge in the 53rd Virginia was a grandson of, I think it was a grandson, was Robert Tyler Jones. He was the grandson of John Tyler, the president. May have been a son, I don't remember now. But here, at this part of the battlefield, right around in here was a private, I think he was a private, named George Nixon. And he was mortally wounded out in between the lines. He was with an Ohio regiment. I can't remember which one. It might have been the 8th Ohio, but I'm not 100% sure of that. And George Nixon was the great-grandfather of future President Richard Nixon, U.S. President, 37th President of the United States. George Nixon was wounded, mortally wounded, I think in the hip out between the lines. There was a young man, and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. Somebody might be able to look it up, who actually crawled out between the lines because they heard George Nixon moaning. Look at this. And rescued him, and actually was given the Medal of Honor for rescuing George Nixon. Now, George Nixon died of those wounds, but the heroism of that young man did not go unnoticed that rescued him. And George Nixon is buried at the National Cemetery there in Gettysburg. Boy, he just handed over those supplies to me without a fight. That was awesome. So again, this is going to go pretty easy, so it's really more just something to sit back and watch while we chat about various topics, because there's really not much of a challenge, at least at this particular battle for me. Now, I think once we get into Chickamauga, that's going to change. There will definitely be a challenge there. So we'll go ahead and speed things along here. I guess we can march these guys up a little bit. It's kind of hard for me to see. It's really bright. My office where I do these videos has got windows all the way around it. And so on a sunny day like today, it gets pretty bright. And when the screen gets dark like this, sometimes I have to adjust it. Oh, look at that. I had a feeling there had to be people out there somewhere. I just didn't know where. Mostly skirmishers, but I'm going to get into a little trouble here. I'm going to go ahead and pull everybody back, get them out of there. That's what I get for bragging about how easy the game was going. He might come out here and grab my supplies. I've got to be careful. I got to send some help. And my guns. Stay away from my supplies, dude. He's at least probably going to fire into him. I just need to get Ammon. Yep, he fired into him. There we go. That was a mistake. I should have just sat tight back here and let him come to me. There was no real advantage to me advancing like that. There we go. No, Joker, I didn't hear anything about Lando in the movie. Alright, things will settle down here now. Yeah, here's the captured supplies that he just handed to me, so we'll make use of that. I actually captured some on July 1st as well when I did my replay. Well, we'll definitely be seeing Solo. My son's particularly excited about it, but we have to see Avengers first. We haven't seen that one. We'll probably see that this week. My kid's last day of school is Tuesday, so we'll probably go during the day one day this week to see it. We've got a theater near here, and I know a lot of folks have these now. They have the recliners in them, and you can put your feet. Oh, it's fantastic. Put your feet up, relax, really comfortable. Don't have to worry about people's heads being in your way. It's really nice. And it doesn't really cost any more than a regular theater. And I even sell alcohol for those who are so inclined. Alright, I know what he's doing here, and I'm totally going to fall for it. I don't know how far out he is, but if he's going to pull this, I'm all over it. Thank you. All right. Could not be much easier than it has been so far for Gettysburg. The casualties are just going to be obscene for this one, as far as how one-sided they are. Lando's one of your favorites. What did they do that you didn't like? I didn't hear anything about it. I'm a big fan of Lando as well. And Donald Glover seems, at least from the trailers that I've seen, to be a good casting choice. So for any of you who may not be familiar with kind of the little detailed stories of Gettysburg, I'll look above the favorite thing. All I see is you said you won't pay money to watch it. Money's the only language Disney speaks. And then you said you hate that the new people at LucasArts try to push their political agenda. But I don't know what that means, so. Oh, never mind. I see. Because of some of the words you used, it didn't allow that into my chat, so I see it now. I had to go over to the YouTube page to be able to see that. All right. Now we're on to Pickett's Charge. Actually, I think we'll probably start back at Culp's Hill, because there was an attack at Culp's Hill on the third day before that happened, before Pickett's Charge happened. But look, I mean, he's at 12,000 men. He's got nothing left for this fight. So anyway, I was starting to say, for any of you who may not be familiar with this, Culp's Hill is the story of is the setting for one of the sadder stories about Gettysburg. It was a young man named Wesley Culp who grew up. He was part of this family. I think this may have been his uncle's farm that was actually on Culp's Hill. A couple years before the war, he had gone south to work in Virginia. And two of his best friends were Jenny Wade, who lived in Gettysburg, that he'd grown up in, and a young man named Jack Skelly. When the war started, Jack Skelly joined the Union Army. Wesley was living in Virginia. He joins the Confederate Army. During the Gettysburg campaign, I think, it may have been in the Valley, but it was somewhere in Virginia, in the weeks leading up to the Battle of Gettysburg, Jack Skelly was mortally wounded in Virginia. He was engaged to be married to Jenny Wade back in Gettysburg. Well, Wesley Culp then comes up to his hometown, Gettysburg, as an invader, invading his hometown. And the morning of July 3rd, he was mortally wounded. I think it was July 3rd, was mortally wounded on his family's farm here. And then meanwhile, Jenny Wade over in town in Gettysburg is in the kitchen at their house, and a stray bullet fired probably around Cemetery Hill comes through the door, slams into her and kills her. All three of these good friends that grew up together, these young people, died within about 2 weeks of each other. Well, Joker, that's probably true with most movie makers these days, unfortunately, and it's frustrating for me as well, but such is life. They get to make those decisions, and the only way that they'll stop making such decisions is if they don't make any money. As long as they're making money on it, they'll probably do what they want. I did see that Disney is no longer the most valuable media company anymore in the world. Netflix has taken that title. So we're going to speed this part up again because, once again, there's really very little he's going to be able to do. He may get me over here just because I'm kind of outnumbered and I'm just firing against skirmishers. But they're going to run out of ammo, so this is just a brutal position, and this is one of the saddest parts for the Confederate side in the war, or in this battle, is that the Confederates didn't take Culp's Hill on the evening of July 1st when they had the chance. So, upcoming live streams for the week. Tuesday, we'll pick up where I left off with Kaiser Reich on Hearts of Iron 4. Friday, once again, we'll be going with that one for at least a few more weeks. And then next Sunday, same time, we'll pick up where we leave off here today with this series. Should be back to a pretty full week of new videos going live on the channel. So subscribe. If you hit that little bell symbol under the video, that'll make sure that you get notifications whenever one of my new videos goes live. You can also follow my Twitter account, which is in the description below. I don't really get on that Twitter much. I don't post to it. I primarily use it as a way to, it automatically posts to my Twitter whenever there's a new video, so people can be aware of those things. Alright, once again, we're going to completely wipe out some units here, I think. So he's down to just 9,400 men. This will probably be, even more so than Fredericksburg, the most one-sided battle that I fight in this campaign. right, Joker, settle down. We don't need to be calling for people's assassinations. Yeah, he's pretty much out of ammo everywhere. I've got a lot of points into, well, not a lot of points, but some points into logistics. So I get kind of a 35% ammo bonus. I think I also use my Corps commanders for their ammo bonus. You can see history guy, first Corps, looks like we've lost about 20% so far. So pretty good for Gettysburg. Alright, we're going to get on to Pickett's charge here in a minute. That's going to go very badly for him, I'm afraid. I'm also going to be, this week, I'll upload my second part of my kind of first look at, we got to get some supplies up here. My first look at 7 Years' War, which will be the combat, which is very different, I think, than most games' combat. It's got some similarities to this or to Total War, but it's actually very different, and some of it's kind of cool. So I'll be reviewing that this week, and then at some point I think I'll probably get into a campaign on that one. I'm also playing through as North Korea, as Kim Jong-un, in Hearts of Iron 4, the modern day mod, so I'll have another video probably Monday or Tuesday for that series. Matthias, another good German in the room. I love it. My wife's great-great-grandfather's name was Matthias Swank, and I was originally Schwenk. All right, 24,000 men. This also will go badly for him. I'll have to check that out, Joker. All right, so here's Pickett's charge, or Longstreet's assault, as it should be known. And if you go to the spot of Pickett's charge and you go to the little place called the Copse of Trees, which is right at the center, the monument there that lists all the Confederate regiments who participated in the attack refers to it as Longstreet's assault. Because Pickett was just one of, I think, 3 division commanders. There were 9 brigades, I think. There were also 2 3rd Corps divisions in this assault. I'll just leave these Napoleons here. And just a couple of years ago, it was actually President Obama who awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously to a Union soldier who defended this area at Pickett's charge. He was Alonzo Cushing. I believe he was from Wisconsin. Brave man who I'm honestly pretty shocked that he didn't receive the Medal of Honor sooner, because it gave out so many Medals of Honor to Union soldiers for their service. I mean, thousands of them during during the Civil War, that it took until just a couple of years ago for Alonzo Cushing to get his. Read up on his story, but he was in command of I think it was Battery B, 4th U.S. Artillery, right at the center of Longstreet's assault, the center of the focus of that attack. And even when most of the rest of his men had been killed, wounded, or had fled, he stood there and manned the guns until he was repeatedly shot. Eventually he was taken down by a shot to the face. Matthias, very cool. I've got both Swedish and German ancestry in my family tree. I'm very proud of both. So look how tiny some of these units are. And you have to remember that these were units who fought on day one and suffered in most cases, more than 50% casualties on day one, and then they're still sent into Pickett's charge on day 3. It's just incredible, incredible bravery. And at the end of this battle, when the charge was repulsed, the men up here on Cemetery Ridge started chanting Fredericksburg, Fredericksburg, because for a change they were on the defensive side of a disastrous assault on a fortified position, and they had been on the receiving end of that just 7-8 months earlier. Hey Taylor, what's up? Yeah, late to the party, but I'm glad you're here. Joker, there really weren't many more that could have. Maryland would have, but Lincoln held them in the Union by force, basically. Kentucky tried to stay neutral, but when the Confederates moved troops into Kentucky, they kind of nominally came in on the side of the Union, but obviously they were divided pretty evenly. But even in states like Tennessee, which seceded from the Union, eastern Tennessee was very heavily pro-Union. California never would have, or in Alaska, we didn't even own Alaska yet, actually. Alaska only became part of the United States a few years after the Civil War. We purchased it from Russia. I think it was 1867, so it was 2 years after the war ended. But California was not a slave state. They would not have ever seceded. The states like Missouri stayed in the Union. They were a slave state. Kentucky, Delaware, Maryland. But again, Maryland supplied a lot of troops to each side. So he's doing his artillery thing here right now, and we're gonna wipe out these batteries before too long. I've got all this rifled artillery up here. Oh, I guess I can't hit him from here. It's kind of strange. Not sure why it won't let me fire on him. Alright, let's speed it up and see if he comes at me. A man turned himself in for shooting Abraham Lincoln. I did not know that. He must be a very, very old man. Yeah, Taylor, there were, you're right, there was some fighting out there in New Mexico, Arizona, in the West. Not a lot of it, but there was some. This battery's about to be gone. He may not even advance. He just doesn't have the men to do it. He would need things to be opposite. He would need to have the 45,000 to my 20,000 to even make this possible. The way to do this as the Confederates is to come up on this side and then march around right there. That's how I did it on the historic battle when I fought it. It's going to be a short live stream today. Here he comes. We'll probably wrap this up after I get refit after the Battle of Gettysburg, but we'll see. We might do one more battle, one of the small ones. So here's Kemper, Armistead. Those are two of Pickett's brigades. Kemper was wounded, it was thought mortally, but he actually survived. Is he hiding somewhere? Did he disappear, or did he couldn't have been wiped out? Kemper ended up, I think he had been the Speaker of the Virginia House of Representatives. Armistead, there's Kemper. Armistead, of course, was killed, mortally wounded. He died a couple days later. His best friend before the war was General Hancock, who was the Corps commander up here on defending this position. And then Dick Garnett was the 3rd Brigade commander under Pickett, and he was missing and never seen again, presumed killed. They saw his horse, but he was never seen. He was probably killed in such a way as to not be recognizable. He had to ride a horse because he had been injured and couldn't walk. And there had been some accusations by Stonewall Jackson of cowardice against Dick Garnett. And since Jackson had been killed 2 months earlier, there was no way for him to defend himself. And basically it was felt that he had no choice but to participate in the charge. Kemper, the man with the glorious beard, yes. Dunger officer, you're thinking of Kentucky, I think. That's basically what happened with Kentucky. Tennessee did join the Confederates. It was Kentucky that did not, and it was because Grant kind of got, I think it was Braxton Bragg who actually sent Confederate troops into Kentucky and violated the neutrality that they had declared. So the first unit, Wilcox, gets up near my position. Now here's Mahone. Yeah, you right idea though, Drunter Officer. You had the right idea, and I'm the same way. We just wiped out another unit here. I often remember facts right, but get some of the details wrong, so no worries there. I do the same thing all the time. Yeah, this is unfortunately going to be very one-sided for him. Pettigrew, I think, was killed on the retreat back to Virginia. Falling Waters, maybe it is. It was where they were crossing the Potomac back into Virginia from Maryland. Yeah, good point, Taylor. People forget that on July 2nd, the Confederates actually did get some units up here onto Cemetery Ridge. It was the heroism of the 1st Minnesota Regiment down here somewhere, because when Sickles advanced his corps out here and kind of left this hole in the line, and then they were driven back, it left a hole in the line that had to be filled, and Hancock was rushing reinforcements from over here on the Union right, and they weren't there yet. I actually did a video of this. If you look on my channel for the 1st Minnesota, you'll find a video from the day I was there visiting the battlefield, and he rushes this 240-man regiment into that hole in the line, and they charge right into these oncoming Confederate brigades and held them up long enough for the reinforcements to come and stabilize the position. But yeah, the Confederates had a good opportunity there to take Cemetery Ridge on July 2nd. Joker, that's interesting. I did not know that. Gallant, I appreciate. I'm glad you like that, and I enjoy sharing some of the things I've learned. I don't mean, hopefully, to come across as like a know-it-all, but this is something since I was probably 8 years old, the Civil War, that I've been passionate about. So I've learned a lot of little things along the way. And hopefully you enjoy learning those things as much as I have enjoyed learning them. And I enjoy learning from you guys as well. There are times you guys share things with me that I didn't know, and I always love hearing that. So please always feel free to share those things that you may know. Oh, Pettigrew's going to get wiped out, I think. There's Lane. Yeah, there goes Pettigrew. He's gone. Gives kind of a sense of what Pickett said when he returned, as Lee comes out and he meets Pickett and he tells him, "General, reform your division. There may be a counterattack." And Pickett looks at him and he says, "General, I have no division." I mean, that was really true. I think he had 13 regiments in his division, and 12 of the 13 lost their commanders during this battle, during this phase of the battle. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal what happened. And not just on July 3rd. Every day of the Battle of Gettysburg was its own brutal affair. I believe this actually goes a little bit longer after Pickett's charge. It allows for me to counterattack, which I'll probably do this time. Oh, he's actually advancing up here in the south, too. Tell you what, let's have a little fun here. Shannon, 99.9% of the time, I go with melee for my cavalry. If I need skirmishers, I usually just break off skirmishers from my divisions, or from my brigades. I like to be able to go in with 3 or 4 melee cavalry units at once and just gobble up a unit and completely destroy them like a locust. So almost always that's what I'm using, is the melee cavalry. Yep, exactly, Taylor. It is entirely my fault. And I think Martin Sheen played that scene off very well in the movie Gettysburg, which is fantastic. Just absolutely well done. I wish they had shown more of the battle than they did. But it was already a really long movie, so I get that. But things like the 1st Minnesota, how could you make a Hollywood movie about Gettysburg and not show what the 1st Minnesota did? That baffles me. Or the 26th North Carolina, who lost like 80% of their force. I'm gonna get these guys out of here and go further out with them before they get hit too hard with this artillery. Shannon, yeah, I love it. I don't know if I could ever go to a regular theater again. We have a regular theater that's about 5 minutes from our house, but we'll drive the 25 minutes to go to the other one to get the recliners for basically the same price. Yep, and supplies, absolutely. Anytime you can grab those supplies, that's a huge bonus. I'm gonna move these 10-pounders back. You gotta be careful when you're charging into one of these artillery units, because if he gets the other one set up and he can fire grape shot at you, it's rough. All right, there we go. We're gonna hit him before he gets a shot off, I think. Yep. Perfect. Got to get some resupply down here. Yeah, Taylor, you're absolutely right. A full-length movie for each day of the battle. But again, I tell you what I love, one of my favorite, or some of my favorite things about that battle, first of all, or that movie, the casting. Huge fan of Jeff Daniels as Chamberlain. Mega fan of Sam Elliott as John Buford. I mean, you could not have cast that role better than Sam Elliott. I think Pickett, what's his name? He's a big actor now. The guy from the really big movie with the blue people. I'm drawing a blank now. Help me out, guys. Who's the guy that played Pickett and then he played Stonewall Jackson in Gods and Generals? Yeah, here he comes. Now he's going to hit me. I got to get out of here. Stephen Lang, thank you. Yes. Fantastic in both roles. I'm a huge fan of his portrayal of Stonewall Jackson. I think he embodies the man as I pictured him in my mind. Really eccentric, very devout in his faith, but also a killer on the battlefield. See, this is what happens. I always get too aggressive with my cavalry. Yeah, I am not in Kansas anymore. You're right. Other stuff about Gettysburg I really like. There's a few things that I don't like. One would be, I think Patrick Gorman's the name of the guy who plays Hood. I like him as an actor. I liked his portrayal of Hood. I don't like the fact that they portrayed Hood as a 40 or 50-year-old man. Hood was young. He was, I think, in his early 30s at the Battle of Gettysburg. So I thought that was miscast a little bit. Alright, this one's pretty well over. We got about 20 minutes to go here. I'm going to wait and see if these supplies get a little closer to me without the infantry. Yeah, Matthias, the things I do to try and protect my cavalry, number one, is I always make sure that I can see where they're going, because what tends to happen is sometimes, like right there, I got ahead of myself and got into a situation where I attacked a unit that was protected by other units nearby, and that's always a recipe for disaster with cavalry. So like right here, I can't see what's over here, so that's dangerous. Number two, I always try to keep at least 3 units of cavalry together. That way, if I do attack somebody, I can destroy them a lot quicker. So that if I get in a situation where they start backing away or another unit comes up, I can quickly switch gears and deal with them. Did I like Gods and Generals? I liked the parts that involved the war. I think it's almost unanimous, and I agree with this as well. The civilian scenes were brutal. Oh my gosh, they're so hard to watch for me. The writing and the dialogue is just so cheesy to me, and I don't even care if that's how people really talked. It just doesn't work for me. The family in Fredericksburg in particular, that's painful to me, and I love the Civil War, and I have a lot of grace for people who make those movies, but that was rough for me. And I didn't mind some of the civilian parts. The little girl with Stonewall Jackson, I enjoyed that. I thought that was a nice touch. Lucy, I think was her name, the girl when they went into winter camp before Chancellorsville. I didn't mind that part. On to the next day, so this would be where we would have a counterattack. I wish they had shown more of Antietam. I know that there's a little bit of Antietam in the director's cut, which I've seen. So I wish there had been more of that. I really liked the Fredericksburg scene, what they showed of Marie's Heights, which obviously was only one part of the battle. I actually don't have to do anything here if I don't want to. We can finish this up real quick and be done with the battle. So here we go. 9,300 casualties. I lost 6 guns. 28, almost 29,000 for him. So interestingly, that's almost identical to the historic numbers for his casualties. He had more men historically in his army, but the casualties are pretty close. I think 28,000 is about what the Confederates lost at that battle. I come out with a bunch of new major generals. I already have a bunch. Wow. Grabbed lots of supplies. That's nice. Captured some decent weapons, but I've got a ton of weapons already. I'm in really good shape for that. Joker, yes, I did see that. Reports of a man riding a bike while shouting racial slurs. A police officer stops the man who says he's searching for his dog Snickers. Not sure I understand it, but okay. Yeah, Taylor, I'm a big fan of that. The farming of the Irish, that was a good way of putting, I think, some things into perspective. All right, I've got 98 reputation, which means I need to spend some. I also need to spend some things here, too. We're going to go medicine. Let's take a look at where things stand now. We've got Bayou Fourche, and then we go right into Chickamauga. So that's going to be next week's live stream. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up right here without getting into this next battle. Let's take a look for just a few minutes at what things look like for me, though. Could pick up some Spencers if I want, but I don't think that's the way I want to go. Got to have John Buford. Let's get him. And go ahead and purchase some 61s. And then we'll look at the situation that we'll be facing at the next battle. And then I'll wrap this up. So it's going to be 15 brigades up against 23,000 men. I'll be assaulting in that one. So we'll get refit and get ready for that. I'm going to wrap things up right there. Good night, Matthias. Thanks for sticking around. Taylor, hope you'll be here 4 o'clock Eastern time, New York time, if you need to check the time to see what it is, every Sunday until this series is over. Jacob, I'm going to go set it up right now. As soon as I sign off, I will set up both a Confederate and a Union, so you can join one of each. We can play them at the same time. Password will be HistoryGuy25. If you guys want to head over to Discord, it's a great place to kind of interact, to keep up to date on what's happening, and also chat about the various games. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up if you would. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again real soon.